have you been dealing in this area of law, Mr. Sasser?
I've been practicing this area of the law for almost 18 years.
Okay. Have you seen any change over time in the attitude of our society? I mean, obviously we have freedom of religion in this country. We're not supposed to favor one over the other. But I think largely this hearing is about whether we're able to impose one's either non-religion or type of religion over somebody else's religion. And have you seen an increase of intolerance towards what I'll call traditional religions in the last 18 years in this country?
Well, I think that we've always struggled as a nation with religious liberty, trying to make sure that we strike the appropriate balances. We haven't always done it perfectly. There's been lots of cases at the Supreme Court over the years. The Jehovah's Witnesses had to fight. The Amish had to fight. There's been lots of different battles that have gone on. What I think is going on now is that for whatever reason, RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, was passed in the Senate 97-0, and it was a voice vote in the House of Representatives. It was sponsored by Senator Ted Kennedy, and President Clinton had some really nice things to say in the Rose Garden when he signed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And that bipartisan, universal appreciation for religious liberty has collapsed.
Right. 27 years ago, could you ever imagine that bill coming to the floor, say, of this House right now? Maybe you don't follow the House right now, but would it ever, can you imagine it coming to the floor? Ted Kennedy and Bill Clinton's bill?
I would hope that we are still the nation that respects religious liberty as one of our founding principles, and I think that a law that was passed by a voice vote in the House and 97-0 in the Senate that had bipartisan and support from people all across different political spectrums, I would hope that we could achieve that once again.
Okay, talk about the Establishment Clause. Do you think it's accurate to say the Establishment Clause prohibits the government from favoring non-religion over religion?
Well, the Establishment Clause, you want to talk about the original meaning of the Establishment Clause?
Sure.
I mean, the original meaning of the Establishment Clause, as Justice Joseph Story pointed out in his commentaries on the Constitution. I believe it was around 1833. He was a former Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Actually had a very limited view of the Establishment Clause as only applying, obviously, to Congress, as it says, but only as to what we would call the establishment of religion as such, that the government would set up and support a particular religion. It wouldn't be for another century and a half that the court would evolve that understanding into some of the Establishment Clause thinking that we see today.
Okay. Are you familiar with the Hosanna Tabor Evangelical Lutheran Church versus EOC?
Yes, I'm very familiar with that. It's a unanimous decision by the U.S. Supreme Court.
But what scares me about the future of the country is a unanimous decision. First of all, you want to just briefly, in 15 seconds, describe to the crowd what the decision says?
Well, the decision essentially says that it is not the government's business to determine who is a minister, who is not for a religious organization, and that they cannot pass laws that would impose burdens on any kind on the employment of people that a religious organization determines to be a minister.
It was unanimous, huh?
Yes,
and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that crowd?
Of course.
Oh, well, yes, okay. Now, something that's not, of course, what happened in that decision on the appellate court level?
Well, it had gone the other way.
Right, 3-0, 3-0, yeah. So kind of scary in the future that there are a lot of people who graduate from our law schools who apparently don't get what the Supreme Court got, right? Earlier this year, the Trump administration issued 9 rules aimed at protecting religious organizations from unfair and unequal treatment by the government. How will these proposed rules protect constitutionally protected religious liberty?
Well, I think the most important function of the executive branch is to conform their regulations to Congress and to existing law. And
I'm going to give you one more question because we're limited to 5 minutes, and I'm sorry to cut you off. A lot has been said here about freedom for religious institutions, freedoms I have once I step in the doorway of a synagogue or church. Do you think those religious freedom should disappear just because I don't work for a church or I'm not in a church?
No, and neither did our founding fathers. That's why they used the word free exercise, because the word exercise means doing things.
Thank you.